Gennem Tågen, a two-man band with a percussionist that is not technically in the band, and we talked a little bit about their recent album, The Darkness of the Mind, where we cleared up some of the confusion that I had actually with thinking that it was Mind's Eye. I googled the name of the album on Google Translate, stated that was translated into Mind's Eye, but it was actually Darkness of the Mind. And the album art, we talked a little bit about the nature of the logo and how it is hand drawn, how I'm not very much interested in talking about AI, and they're not interested in doing much AI stuff. Also, the importance of emphasizing that the band is very much connected to nature-based themes, and that the concept is about mostly nature. And the quick discussion about beer actually had me very surprised that they've actually heard of the brands of beer that I am very dedicated to, and have been buying these beers, and know about these beers that we have here in this country. That was a very cool surprise. The album that is released recently had been the preceding album of After 13 Years. The discussion also about COVID and the pandemic made it pretty clear that the pandemic lockdown drew lots of inspiration for this band and their art and their art form, as well as the creative inspiration that continues to flow as they do some odd little show here and there, locally or in Germany as of late. I commented on and made a question, raised a question of if the signature sound of the guitars slowing down at some points in the album were something that they like to embrace as a signature sound, and they have said that yes, they like to have that slow points in the tracks as well as a signature sound, as well as hearing the feedback that people have to give, and how that feedback helps fuel their sound and keeps the momentum going. This didn't really happen the way I wanted it to, as it was really a surprise to me to find out that the people being interviewed did not realize that I was actually screen recording the video. So that came to me as a huge shocker, as I responded with, it saves time, and it does. And then now here I am thinking about it later, about, well, the issue being presented is basically an issue that wasn't presented, and that's, I totally made an ass out of myself. When you assume, you make an ass out of me and you. And I didn't realize that the people I'm interviewing might not have known that I'm screen recording our interview. I guess it'd be helpful if in the future the way that I went about actually producing this podcast, this episode of the podcast, serves as a backup plan until I find the proper software that can allow for the screen recording without running into any of the audio issues that I did with this one. These solutions being arrived at will certainly help, but it won't help. You can't fix stupid. In other words, it won't help me in informing the person being interviewed ahead of time that I'm screen recording this interview, so that it saves time, and it's that's the assumption, and then the presumption where I'm presuming that the quality's better. It's not for sure whether it's making the quality better just because of the fact that you can see the interview actually going down, but it's a discussion that I need to have right here and right now, that it is more of just a live experience. It's more of a certain things that you can experience when viewing by watching the video and seeing the live video screen recording that you can't see through this format, where on this it was fortunately enough, I guess, that you can see the interview go down. You can't see me in the image, you can't see me in the video, but you can see the people being interviewed in the video. And so I'm left with determining on whether the quality is better or not, as that is an important question to pose. The quality on my delivery obviously is being strengthened and improved on this experience, on this unfortunate event, but the quality of the standard that I have of being able to see the interview actually go down on video, that's the standard. That is the unspoken standard until now. Until now, it has been the unspoken standard. Now, I'm saying, this is my standard, this is what I require, and let's move on now, then. So the actual basic discussions of influences, musical influences or otherwise, was not discussed. A couple other questions that I had on my mind that weren't asked, and thought about reaching out later to get the answers to the question later, is another thing that goes along with my standard, that I'm not going to reach out. We just had the interview's done for now, and then if I have them on the show the next time, that is when I can ask these questions. So what we did discuss, however, is more on allowing me, let me start by building basically the context by which the interview has been discussed. That the context of this interview is basically the growth of the band, how the band started. What they did, fortunately, emphasize is that they want to build a strong connection, a strong context between their connection in nature, between themselves and nature, and a nature-based, nature-minded individuals. That is something I did not add into the narrative, but I have put together, drawn the narrative with. I'm thinking no typos, but you can always bump into a typo every now and then. I literally find typos in big productions. So if I run into a typo here and there, it's not that big of a deal, no biggie. But the narrative that I have put together is based on that context, that these time frames, contextualizing it through the themes that are intended, the intended themes. Some of the other are here in the narrative. Some of the other questions that I asked was it basically a little bit of a rocky road, a little bit of shallow water on, are some of the things intentional and are some of the things not? And there are also more obvious questions that should have probably been asked and did not ask. But I'm not going there. I'm not holding back. and I don't have any regrets on the interview. It was a great time hanging with these gentlemen, talking music, talking beer, talking a little bit about AI, and I want to dishevel this narrative for you right now. And the band name wasn't mentioned, but they are Gennem Tågen. Gennem Tågen. The names of the artists are Skare with the vocals on the acoustic guitar, Molm on the electric guitar and bass. Vanak is the permanent session drummer who's not in the band, and so they are a two-piece, they are a duo black metal outfit. With 2 albums written from 2008-2021, there's those albums that were written released in 2024, so this year, of the release of the publishing of this podcast. The first one translates from Koldt Betragdets Verden into Nature of Man from Danish. They're from Denmark. And Sindets Mørke, so this is Danish. Sindets Mørke is also Danish, translating to darkness of the mind. And I cleared up, like I said in the beginning, that translation that Google gave me. So, note to self, you can't always trust a Google Translate to properly convey, especially when you're talking under the confines of creative work, as you want to know the accurate intention of what the artist was meaning to portray. So here is the narrative that I've written, loosely based on what was given to me, and with a few things added in, as I can always at any time hear some feedback and say, no, this was wrong. I'm not in anticipation of this, but I am certainly prepared to return with an altered narrative or any corrections that need to be made, if that be the case, as accuracy is very important to me. Each song individually written and focused on here on these 2 albums, on these two releases. Immediately after, I also want to go into a little bit of detail here on each song being individually written and focused on, that I did not quote any of the narrative that was given to me from the artists, as I discovered the technical difficulties while I was with them, and then had to tell them about it, as it's the 3rd time that it's happened recently. So having the other artists and needing to pick up after the interview that was with them, I believe I owe them a little bit more than an acknowledgement. So it was good that this happened, and that this can hopefully help bring some of the interviews that were lost to light, as that is a pretty big deal. And I think that anybody who's a professional journalist or has a degree in journalism might have something to say about this. Each song was individually focused on and written, meaning that I have to take a little bit of interpretation on this meaning, that the intention on the words given to me is something I have to presume was meaning that each one has its separate realm, each one has its separate domain, its own space, and its own kind of creative flow. One of the things that I did not add into the narrative that also should be in there, that is here now, is basically there isn't a creative flow with the way that they work, and it's important to add these in and to share these with the other artists, as that is my intent as the podcaster, to make sure that somebody has something to take away from this, something to gain from this, that you can have basically a certain intention on how you're portraying each individual song, each individual album, each individual concept. That those stylings of a creative flow being my personal route that I'm taking currently, and then having one that is more a specific, focused, and concentrated premise on each of these being their way of going about responding to this creativity. So each of the songs on these 2 albums was individually written as focused on, is how I wrote it. immediately after the new album's material and the framework of it therein fell into fruition quickly before live performance aspects took over, with the practicality of doing live performances absorbing most of the time required to focus on the lyrical side, lacking in new material. This follow-up album is not expected to be released until, well, let me finish what I was saying about this. So the doing the live stuff, in terms of specifically what I'm saying, that with the practicality of doing live performance absorbing most of the time that's required to focus on the lyrical side of creating the album, that was lacking in the new material. So there leads into the follow-up, that this follow-up album is thus not expected to be released until early next year at its soonest, and 2026 at the latest, and that's 2 years from now. And the 5 shows, there is a typo, I'm missing a D. With the 5 shows that have been played since November of 2023, it has required an exchange of some of the focus that would have otherwise been spent on this 3rd release. So we can look forward to hearing that, and definitely hearing that comeback and seeing how much different the sound will be, or same, or just really supporting that is my aim on that front. Tour dates, we got right here for the links to get tickets to this mini tour. It's a mini Germany tour. Black Rights of Drugula, and the YouTube band, the YouTube channel this band was found under is Black Metal Promotion. Official shout out Black Metal Promotion. Make sure you go check out, like, share, subscribe to Vendetta Records, Black Metal Promotion, and Metal Archives has them under Strange Aeons Records, probably a previous record label, so don't need to worry about that. Socials for this band are where you want to purchase the band's work on Bandcamp, as immediately after the premiere, where I found them, connected with them, they stated that they have received a purchase from someone in the chat, from interacting in the chat. Likewise, anybody else that interacts in chat, you will benefit from doing so, so I strongly encourage you to do that. The music video, the link for the music video is also available on here, and make sure you check them out on Metal Archives, as I am strongly tempted to help and add some additions to any of the artists that I'm interviewing onto Metal Archives. I think it's important first to reach out and add that into the mix of all the stuff that I do here. With that episode being concluded, and this interview as well, I am Mickey Gemini. This is Vault of Doom podcast, and I hope you guys enjoyed this discussion, I guess what was left of the discussion, and hopefully see you guys soon.